What's going on, everybody? So I just gave my garden a nice drink of some compost tea, so I wanted to kind of document where my plants currently are. And I'll talk about why I'm very curious to know how my compost tea is going to affect the plants, because I think after changing my formula, my plants are starting to do a lot better. For example, here are some tomatoes that are actually growing from seed, and to be honest, they tend to look a little bit more like these plants down here because the potato bugs and slugs just devour any seedlings that sprout. But I actually got a few to kind of come through, so these things have hit a turbo overdrive on their growth, and we're going to monitor them. Right here, got some Swiss chard and some plant that I have no idea what it is, along with some wheat. You'll see wheat and probably some other plants kind of growing around the way that come from my chicken feed that obviously was not ate and made its way into my garden. Over here, this is more of my winter garden. That's why I got a lot of random bushes around here. I'm leaving those in because I want the roots to maintain and keep life and biology within the soil before I take them out and then plant a lot more of my winter crops. Here in San Diego, the winter crops are a lot of your leafy greens, which you can still see. Some of my kale right there is still doing very good, and I have some borage correction that sprouted up and is doing great. So this actually is, if you see the pipe going here, I actually use an aqua jet system, which uses a series of jets to blow in water at high velocity, which at least at the beginning of the cycle also uses air. It also injects air. So kind of looking, see if it follows this well. Here's the wet area because the watering was just this morning, and here's like some of the dry area. That's just the shallow area. A little bit deeper, you can just see it's a little higher here, a little bit deeper. It's also wet underneath. It does a good job at keeping this area wet. Have some kale that now is starting to get a little too warm. It's starting to bolt, so I'll be cutting this down after. As you can see, it's starting to seed, and I want to let the seeds grow, dry, and drop so that hopefully I don't have to plant any more kale. It just will grow naturally. And I've had very good luck, at least in the green section that I showed you. This is some of my spring crops that I planted. I believe this was yard-long beans or pole beans. I don't remember exactly which ones they are, but they really, they're one of the few plants that actually survived, again, the slugs and the roly-polies, and are starting to do very well, actually. Again, I think this growth also started to occur around the time I did the last compost tea. So I believe that's what helping it, or it could just be that the weather's getting warmer and the biology is improving too. So underneath, it looks like we have some potatoes that are starting to come up, along with some of our sweet peppers here that I trimmed down and are actually trimmed down for the winter, and they're actually starting to come back. Mixed results, a little bit weak over here, but then we got some strong growth over here, so we'll see how that goes this year. This is sort of my onion nation down here. They're growing very strong and very high. The top of my trellis is roughly about 5 feet, so some of them are making it all the way there. I'm just waiting for the stalks right here to kind of weaken and start to fall over before I harvest. That should be coming up in a little bit. To be honest, it's the first time I've ever done onions, so I'm not quite sure how much longer I got. And then within my onions, I have what I believe is a sunflower, but I'm not sure. However, right here we got some sugar snap peas that are coming and are growing really good. This is my goji berry bush right here that I have not had many berries from. I think I need to figure out how to prune it. So my phone died yesterday, but we'll just pick up right here on my two-fruited tree. Again, we have the plums on the left side, and on the right side is a peach variety that I can't remember. Here we have my blood orange and Valencia orange semi-dwarf trees. These were originally planted on the other side of my yard, but since I thought they would get to be about this size, but they just really haven't been growing. They're not dying, but they're not growing, so I just moved them. We'll see how they do. If anything, if they do grow to be about this size, then them being right there will be perfect. And then also kind of right here, growing up to right here, is the peanut bush or a peanut plant that growing peanuts for the first time. This is my peach tree. She was originally huge. I mean, going all the way over here and all the way up there, but she just she had like dead parts. So one year I cut half of her down and allowed this area to kind of grow up and basically manipulate the way it was growing, and then this part over here I cut down last. I believe this tree is a branch from a permissence tree. Can't remember, but when it fruits, we'll see what it is. And this is my Mexican lime tree. This is my fig tree. When we first moved here, so this tree here, the fig tree, was here when we got here, and so was the peach tree, and so was this guava tree. But all else have been planted. But when we first got here, this fig tree only fruited one time a year. Now it seems to be fruiting 3 times a year. So this is its initial production going on right now, and yeah, we tend to grow quite a bit. As a matter of fact, I had pruned a large branch from underneath, and it really seems to be as expected. The rest of the tree is really thriving off the additional nutrients that it's receiving. Down here we have the potato plants. They're growing. They're probably be another month or so before we actually harvest those. I'm looking forward to this. Now this right here, this tree here with the 5 dead branches, it's pretty much dead. Unfortunately, this was my baby and I killed it. It's like an inevitable factor when you are growing your garden. It's going to you're going to kill something. And unfortunately, my avocado tree, which had produced it was going to be its 3rd year production, I thought it was going to produce around 20 avocados, died. So the grapes here that are growing up the side of my patio covering were originally planted by the fig tree. I moved it because I had the intention on growing, allow them to keep growing year after year. And this only took about a year really for them to get long enough. And then once they were able to reach the top of the covering, I went ahead and split them up. So I'm growing grapes down this way and then down this way here too. So the intent is to keep growing them along the patio covering until it's fully covered. This is my guava tree. This is one of the plants that was originally here when I moved here, and this thing just produces like a beast. So I kind of screwed up the pruning. I just cut some major branches and it's growing all wild back there. I'm going to do a very strategic prune on it here, heavy prune coming up, but not this year. Maybe after this year's production, but we'll see. This right here is my pomegranate tree. This is the 2nd year in the ground. First year we're letting it go to fruit. First year, whenever I plant something, I allow it to develop the root system before it goes to fruiting, since fruiting tends to take so much nutrition and energy from the tree. My sweet peppers, this is Big Bertha. It's a San Diego variety that does very well. Within the sweet peppers, if you look right here, this small branch with some leaves starting to form, and a branch that currently doesn't have any leaves but still going strong, and right about here, so I zoom in on it, get in close. That's actually 2 avocado trees that I planted together, kind of like an angle from each other. When the winter comes and the sweet pepper loses its leaves in the winter, we'll go ahead and I'll show you what I mean on how I planted them together. This bush right here is an ashwagandha tree. If you're not sure what ashwagandha tree is, I recommend you look it up. It has all kind of good hormone resetting properties if you eat the fruit and as a matter of fact, in even the roots, but I'm only going to be doing the fruits because I only have this one bush and I don't want to kill it just for one-time use. This large tree right here is my elderberry tree that I planted just this year. Since it's native to California, I'm gonna go ahead and allow it to fruit this year if it decides to, because the pruning technique for this every year is you cut it off all the way at the floor. So we'll let it go this year, and then every year it'll just get stronger and stronger. Now here are my chickens. I have 6 of them. Don't know what the breeds are. I have 4 yellow ones and 2 white ones here. They seem to do good. Let's see here. Looks like one is possibly actually producing. This is the best nest box. I may or may not do. Oh yeah, we even got some eggs here. Oh, and it looks like, okay, so this is an egg that wasn't fully developed and came out, and you can see the ants are getting at it. And then all we do to harvest is we just open this up, pull the eggs out, and bring them inside. And since they come out clean because they just roll down, I don't have to wash them, and they stay good outside for many weeks. So far, they have been good for up to 3 weeks outside, and I'm pretty sure they could go another 2 or 3 maybe. This is the area where I had the original. I used to have the blood orange semi-dwarf tree and the Valencia orange tree here. As you can see, since I moved them, I put a navel orange tree here, and it hasn't yet shown any new growth. However, it does appear to be taking. So I'm hoping with the compost tea, this did not receive the compost tea the last time, so I'm hoping with this time maybe it will spark some additional growth, so I know that the roots are really starting to take. This is the little engine that could. If I were going to give a name to this tree, this is my mango tree. Now I'm going to kind of move in and get a little short here to the very low end. When this thing first was coming, it only had like 4 leaves. Looks like some of them are now starting to die and be eat up probably, but it only had 4 leaves. And for like a year, almost 2 years, it only had those 4 leaves, and I thought I was going to lose it. But every year it continued growing another I guess you could say system of leaves, probably, and then it started going to about twice a year. And this has been in the ground for a little over 3 years, and not only do we have this growth just exploding, you can see the difference between here and up here. To get an idea on, just how much growth this one has done compared to looking like right here. Let me get my fingers so you can see. Compared to like here and here, you can see how the growth was going in between compared to just this huge sprout. So it's been in the ground for about 3 years, and I really think that now I'm probably about another 2 or 3 years from fruit if it keeps growing the way it's growing. This is my composter that I use. And finishing up, I'm just going to cover some of my potted plants. Since my family and we travel a lot, I really have to kind of keep a lot of these things either easily movable so I can put them into the grass and be watered by the sprinklers, or they have to have its own irrigation. So I don't have too many potted plants. But look at these strawberries. This is where I decided that maybe I was on the right track with compost tea, because until maybe about 3 weeks ago, just before I put in this compost tea, all of these things were down here. If you look at my hand, I mean, these things are growing to well over a foot now and just sprouting. We have a lot of strawberries starting to come in, and I haven't ever seen any growth like this. I believe this is possibly some squash coming in right here. But here and also over here in my strawberry planters, these things are just exploding right now on their growth. So again, I gave them some new compost tea, a new formula, and let it brew a little bit longer. And as a matter of fact, after I do a compost tea, I wash it out with the jet sprinkler attachment, and then allow it to just dry in the sun and receive the UV for probably about 2-3 days. That's the extent of the disinfectant, because at a lot of the compost tea videos that I've seen, they recommend you got to clean it well, because then potentially some pathogens can grow in there and kill all your plants. So potentially in the next couple of weeks I could come through talking about how all my plants are dead, but I don't think that's going to happen. So, and then the last thing, I'll be bringing these 2 prickly pears that are fruiting out to the desert, but I actually do have one on my hill. Let me take a quick look here. So I'm going to try to zoom in right where it is. If you can see right there, kind of in the center. I planted one there. It seems to be taking, so I'm going to bring the others out to the desert. But here, just kind of ending the video, is my worm castings, or my worm poo harvesting contraptions. Just have about 4 tables, 4 bins on top of a table that I made that's watertight. And if any leachate, I have 2 options. So number 1, this creates the black gold. If you are a gardener, you understand how good the worm castings are. I'm using the worm castings and the compost tea. I think that's what really started to make my garden take off. However, I have 2 options. Number 1, you can see that here in the warmer weather, I'm starting to get like some fluid draining down from here. There's actually a little fluid building up in there. I'm getting a little concerned it's not starting to drain out fast enough. So I'm probably gonna have to get in there and really clean them out and make sure that it's starting to drain well enough. However, when I'm not getting leachate, I can basically put some water into the top of here and allow it to just drain out, and then go ahead and remove any of the it's not a compost tea, but it's sort of just like a worm casting extract. But I can take that worm casting extract, put it into my compost tea bin, and then brew some bacteria as a probiotic for my food. But anyways, this is the end of my initial gardening video. Thank you for paying attention if you've been in this long, been watching it this long. And yeah, we'll see how the compost tea does this year, or this brew does this round, and we will go ahead and show the progress here in maybe about 2-3 weeks. But yeah, this is just kind of giving you a view. I have this hill that I've been working on. I'll do a little bit of videos later, but this hill has been very challenging to put sufficient water on there. During the rainy season, I get a lot of growth, but water being so expensive here in San Diego, I tend not to want to use much water, try to conserve as much as I can so that I can keep my garden going. But anyways, that's the end of this video. Thank you.